Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy March 27th, 2024. Welcome to another hump day. It's Wednesday, right? I believe so. Yes, another hump day, and I'm excited to attack the second half of this week. Can we get this a little focus in for the camera? Get the camera to focus in a little bit. It looks like it's grainy. Looks very grainy. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I've also got OCD, and it's very hard for me to take my focus off of something once it's on something. But I don't know. Hopefully, this thing can get it together. Anyways, I don't want to waste time. I want to get directly into what we have going on this morning. But I hope everybody had a great night's sleep. There we go. Okay, maybe it was just my computer screen, but we're looking a lot clearer now. Looking more 4K-esque. Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great night's sleep. You're ready to attack the day and make today a great day. Yesterday, we had a number of things come through for us, right? Pins coming through for almost 300% profit. We had DraftKings. We have Disney continuing to pay us as we absolutely roast the mouse house on these swings. So it's been an exciting month. It will continue to be as we ride it into the sunset. We've got some fun monthly closes that we're watching as well. As March has been a great breakout month for a lot of different tickers. So we've also had a lot of interesting news come through. So there's a lot to stay on top of, and that makes these morning sessions even more important. So welcome to the Premarket Prep session. This is where we go over news, notes, analysis, trade ideas, economic data, what have you, that will keep you ahead of the curve when it comes to putting your money to work for you in markets. That's key nowadays, right? The charts tell you where you need to be. Look at Marvel here this morning, up significantly after hours. We entered Marvel right before close yesterday. You don't get lucky, right? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So this is part of that preparation, right? Being in the right environment so that you are prepared and positioned for when big moves happen, right? It's not by luck that we get in right before there's a big overnight move, right? On Pinterest, when Disney gets it moving again, when Bank of America gets it moving again, right? It's not by coincidence that we are in those things. It's because we're taking information that the charts are giving us and using that in order to make great decisions, right? So if you're not involved with us, get involved with us. Send me a DM. Email me, adam@adamhollandeducates.com, and let's get you rocking and rolling in markets. This journey can look different for everybody, right? So don't say, oh, I'm not here, I don't have this time, or I don't do this, I don't do that. If you want to get involved, right? Reach out. But the only thing that's stopping you from putting your money to work in markets is you. So don't let you stand in the way anymore. And let's get to work, right? Accomplishing some fun major goals. In terms of our news today, we're about to dive into it, but we're here with the intention each and every day of getting 1% better. So make sure you throw that in the chat, whether you're watching live or via replay. Throw that one in the chat, signifying your intention to get 1% better. That's what we want, right? Build that up over time, that compounding return on getting 1% better every day. It's a beautiful thing. So our number one headline here, top news, supply disruption. Many are still trying to make sense of the disaster that struck Baltimore early on Tuesday when the 1.6-mile-long Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed in the middle of the night. The 95,000-ton container ship Dolly, chartered by Maersk, collided with one of the support columns following a last-minute distress call, sending 8 workers atop the bridge into the water. 2 were rescued and 6 are presumed dead. Prayers to them and their families. Horrible tragedy and a horrible way to go out. Responding to the catastrophe, President Biden has called for the federal government to pick up the tab for the reconstruction of Key Bridge, though that could take years and will require congressional approval. Now, what happened? An investigation is ongoing, but videos show the cargo ship's lights turning off and then on again shortly before it struck the bridge. Power to the Dolly is said to have gone out shortly after it left the port of Baltimore, including to the ship's engines, possibly due to a failure of machinery aboard the vessel. Now, while emergency generators eventually kicked the lights on, the renewed power likely didn't impact the ship's propulsion or steering gear. An inspection in Chile last June even identified a problem with the Dolly's, quote, propulsion and auxiliary machinery, but the most recent examination conducted by the U.S. Coast Guard in September didn't find any deficiencies. So, there's been a lot of rhetoric, a lot of theories thrown around. Could this have happened with malicious intent? Sure, I don't put anything past 2024, right? The cyber capabilities that these different countries have are, nothing like what we've seen before, and we've got more, cloud systems and computer systems that are integrated into every facet, right, of every company than ever before. Right, there's more computing power in microwaves than what used to be in computers. So everything is, what's the word, vulnerable, right? Everything is vulnerable. No one is assuming that this was some type of attack or anything of that nature, but I think the investigation is what's going to prove that. The more pressing thing really is the supply chain issue, right? And this is exactly why, like, for me, as someone who lives in Maryland and lives near where that happened and where this will affect, things that are going on. This is why it's so important for me to make sure that I always have my money working for me, right? And that I don't have anything in my life that I could not pay for 3 times over, right? I'm not living anywhere, driving anything, buying anything that I can't pay for multiple times over exactly because of stuff like this. There's a lot of people now who are like, I need to go out and I need to buy this car or buy this house or do this or do that. And they can afford it as long as everything remains the same. Well, it only takes a random ship with electrical issues crashing into a bridge overnight to completely upend those plans, right? I always plan so that regardless of what, you know, uh, unforeseen black swan events occur in my life, it will not jeopardize my ability to put food on the table or really cause me any anxiety, right? Oh, cool. This happened here. Nice. I didn't get anything I couldn't afford. Right. Oh, cool. Well, I live here. This happened in this area near me. Prices are going to go up. Cool. I make sure that what I spend is well within, even if prices tripled, for me to be able to continue doing my normal daily thing. Right. And I think this is a very stark example of that in action, where especially after COVID, right? I don't even like saying that because I don't want the algorithm to pick up on it and be like, oh, misinformation. But especially after that virus, the world is more volatile than ever. So you always have to plan for the unexpected, factor in the unexpected. And I sit right here as a prime example of that, where when these things happen, cool. I had planned for this to occur. And then that way it's not some crazy existential crisis that I can't recover from, because that happened a lot, in a lot of places across the board, where you had, a lot of different apartment buildings write stuff into lease contracts where people who signed up post that virus, right, got a certain rent payment, but then after a certain amount of time, they had the right to raise it by 40% or more, right, the rent out of nowhere. I'm not living anywhere that I couldn't afford to live 3 times over again, right? So that it's like these little keys, especially nowadays, where it's like build your bankroll, right? Build it, build it, build it, build it. 5 million is the new 1 million, right? Build it, build it, build it until you think that you have way too much money than what you need in order to be comfortable, right? And then you'll be comfortable, so that no matter what goes down, right, you've got systems in place, you've got the capital in place to keep things going. But that whole 6-figure deceiver is just a mighty thing. And the deceit has gotten even stronger because of how much inflation has gone up, right? You need $200,000 to have the same buying power that $80,000 got you, only some years ago. So that's what this screams to me. And that is really the biggest repercussion of this boat crash, is what's going to happen to the supply chain, because that is the biggest major port, in this area, which is what they're talking about here. The supply chain is the most talked about consequence for the economy. Shipping traffic with shipping traffic suspended until further notice. Baltimore is one of the busiest ports on the U.S. East Coast, and the rerouting of cargo will create delays and raise costs at a time when consumers and policymakers alike are sensitive to inflation. It will also add to the recent disruptions on the high seas, including increased congestion in the Panama Canal and attacks in the Red Sea that have forced traffic around the tip of Africa. Right. And in terms of broader ranging secular trends, this will also contribute to one of the big trends I've been talking about for the past 2 years, which is that death of globalization and the rise of protectionism. the supply chain is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. I'm not saying all this in order to like instill fear. I'm saying it because it's true. It's held together by band-aids before, the virus. The virus made things so much worse, and the supply chain still has not yet recovered, and that's why shipping is so expensive. Plus, we've got this issue going on, this issue in the Red Sea with the Houthi rebels and the pirates, right? So now we're having to sail extra far just to get here, and then now once you get here, one of the major ports on the East Coast, you're not able to get into, right? So it's just kind of thing after thing after thing here that's making the supply chain worse and worse and worse. And I believe that's why you've seen, all these billionaires buying up farmland, just investing in like things that used to be considered wealth way back in the day, because I think they're seeing this trend continue and they're recognizing I need the ability to be self-sufficient on my own little plot of land if I really want to be truly secure. So the real ramifications will be the supply chain, and that affects not just Maryland but the whole East Coast, right? So this isn't time where I'm like, okay, Maryland, we're about to get screwed. Like, call your wife, call your mom, call it. No, it just means that we need to make sure we're even more diligent when it comes to putting our money to work for us consistently, right? Doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it, right? I don't care if gas prices go up. Gas is making me money, right? I don't care if food prices go up. Food is making me money. That's the thing. Using the market to offset those increases, those inconveniences. That is the amazing cheat code of life, right? And that's one that we want to continue to leverage for ourselves. Now, in terms of immediate impacts, coal exporter Consol Energy, ticker CEIX, slid 7% yesterday in response to the indefinite shuttering of the Port of Baltimore. The company's operations are said to be highly connected to its marine terminal at the port, which represents over a quarter of all U.S. seaborne coal exports, which is wild. I'll repeat that. Represents over a quarter of all U.S. seaborne coal exports. So over 25% of all the coal that we send out goes through this port, right? The maritime terminal at the port, which is shut down until further notice. Recent data also indicates that 850,000 cars and light trucks pass through Baltimore each year, more than at any other U.S. port, prompting Ford and General Motors to comment on the possible impacts facing the American auto industry. So this is something where we'll see the ramifications, rear their ugly heads over the course of the next few weeks, but this will affect a lot of different companies in a lot of different sectors. So that will be something to keep in mind. But I mean, 850,000 cars and light trucks that pass through, the city and more than at any U.S. port. Crazy. And that's why, again, you can't rule out like the fact that there was some foul play here, because it was such a strategic place to strike, right? Such a strategic place to strike. So I'm not like a fear monger or warmonger, but it's just with where we are with Russia, China, insert any, country here. This is when you start trying that stuff, sprinkling that stuff out. And it's, it cannot be ruled out. If it was some random tiny bridge in the middle of a park, all right, cool. But at this point, it's like seeming a lot more, coordinated. Either it's just very unfortunate circumstances, but it comes at a time in which you have to kind of look at it sideways. Now, in terms of SPAC news, moving on, paper into cash following a stellar market debut. Trump Media and Technology, ticker DJT, is still rallying on Wednesday, although the firm's near $8 billion valuation seems excessive as it has never turned a profit. There are also risks of its biggest shareholder, Donald Trump, cashing in on the paper gains despite a 6-month lockup period. While his 60% stake is valued at around $5 billion, the former president is facing some big legal bills, and his son and former officials of his administration sit on the company board. Trump could also seek to use his DJT stake as collateral to get a loan, although chances of securing funds this way are likely low. I mean, it takes a lot of money to run a presidential campaign, and, this company going public at this point is definitely some points in his favor. He could use it as a way to secure a loan. The odds of funding might be low, but that's not zero, right? That's not zero. So, Trump somehow slithering his way around and making things happen. If there's something that politicians can do, it is that, slither around. So, and that's on both sides, right? That ain't supporting one side or supporting the other. We got snakes on either side, and they just make sure that they're good at the end of the day. So we got to make sure that we are good at the end of the day. In terms of economic news, retirement, and in terms of DJT too, I'm not planning on trading it. You're like, oh, Adam, DJT is up, right? There is, is this something I should be in? No, right? There are tons of real companies that are not meme stocks that are paying substantial sums overnight, over the course of a few days, over the course of a few weeks, right? Companies that you would never think about, right? Gap Inc. paid us thousands of percent in profit. We talk about DraftKings. We talk about Pinterest, Disney, Occidental Petroleum, right? So many of these that are just bringing in the bacon. Focus on those. They're real companies that have real products and real services and real profit. You can play fun lottery tickets just because you only live once, so you might as well do fun things like play lottos. You guys know I like to have fun as well, but it's just that's not a solid trading strategy or a solid investing strategy that will pay for you enough over time to really build your bankroll. Now, in terms of economic news, the retirement crisis, as people live longer lives, BlackRock chairman Larry Fink is warning that the world is at risk of facing a retirement crisis. It's true. Quote, what if the government and private sector treated 60-plus-year-olds as late career workers with much more to offer rather than people who should retire? He asked in his annual letter to investors. Fink also called on policymakers and investment firms to make retirement investing, quote, more automatic for workers, noting that building savings has never been more urgent. Quote, when people are regularly living past 90, what should the average retirement age be? It's true. I think one thing that we really have to realize when we look at these systems that are set up, right, is that humanity is a young species. United States, we're a young country. There's not really anything that's set in stone as the best way to go about things. The 401k was a stopgap measure, right? It was never meant to fully retire people. A retirement age, like who sets that? When was it set, and under what precedent? And is that the right age given the fluctuations in demographic data, right? And things like baby boomers and all of that, right? It's important for us to continue to remember that no one has got it right? Humanity has been around for how long? We've had how many empires come and go, and not one has found a way to govern that really, truly makes sense, that really, truly is best for everyone and eliminates the personal interests of those that are in power, right? No one's figured that out. It's not communism. It's not democracy as we see, and it's not totalitarianism or anything else that you might see overseas. It's none of those. So it's like, therefore, by proxy, we have to also think all of the other things that are set up, right? It's just based off of a few years of data, and it can't be applied over a long period of time. So it's like, I say all that to say that you don't have to subscribe to these things or base your life off of these things, because unfortunately, the world does not owe you retirement at 65 or whatever the age is, right? It doesn't owe you that. It's something where, we have it set up where you think that you're owed that, but you're not, right? People come and they, move to America and they pursue the American dream and they think that they're owed that, and they're not. We're really owed nothing, right? We have to go out and secure it. We've got to seize it for ourselves. And this retirement crisis is another example of that. So I'm not a, subscriber to that idea of like victimization and complaining. If I'm approaching this age and I know that this, the current setup is not stable enough for me to feel okay, I'm not going to subscribe to that setup. I'm going to make sure that I'm good, right? It's like if you go and you hop on a bus and you see that the bus is having brake issues and tire problems and all that, I'm not relying on that bus, right? It's as simple as that. I'm not going to complain, man, this bus sucks, somebody needs to fix it. No, it's my life. I want to make sure it's okay. So I'm not going to hop on that bus. I'm going to go ahead and get a car for myself. And that's how it goes. But yeah, this whole retirement thing, it's tough when you've got people living longer. What do you do? People living longer and the cost of living going up. Something's got to give. So again, that just reiterates back to the point of, number one, make sure that you're learning AI a little bit every day. Number two, make sure your money's working for you. That's what all of these headlines this morning reiterate to me, right? Make sure that you're utilizing the best tools available to increase the value that you bring to the marketplace, either via you being an entrepreneur within the company you work in or an entrepreneur outside of that company. And then number two, make sure your money's working as hard as you are, because inflation is working overtime. In terms of energy news, the ban that wasn't raising questions about the fate of similar efforts. The city of Berkeley, California has agreed to drop the first ever U.S. natural gas ban following a settlement deal with the California Restaurant Association. Quote, climate change must be addressed, but piecemeal policies at the local level, which are preempted by federal energy laws, are not the answer, said CRA President Jat Condi. Environmental advocates say the court decision in Berkeley's repeal only marked the end of a chapter and may open the door for more durable strategies to phase out fossil fuels. In terms of today's markets, a little mixed bag happening here. In Japan, we're up 0.9%, Hong Kong down 1.4%, China down 1.3%, India up 0.7%, the footy in London down 0.3%, Paris up 0.1%, Frankfurt up 0.3%. The Dow, we've got green up 0.4%, S&P up 0.4%, NASDAQ up 0.5%, crude oil down 0.7%, gold up 0.7%, Bitcoin down 1.1% to 70,117. In terms of the economic calendar today, nothing too important that is happening today. Let me double check on our Market Watch economy and politics calendar. Wednesday, March 27th, nothing really. We've got a member of the Fed speaking at 6 p.m. But that's it. Now, what else is happening? We'll finish up with our rapid fire stock news rundown here. Baltimore Bridge collapse should be manageable loss for insurers. In terms of like rebuilding it, everyone is saying, oh, well, the company that rebuilds it, it will likely see, some increased revenue, stuff like that. It's likely going to be government, right? We've already talked about how, Biden is going to propose that the government takes care of it. So government will likely be getting paid for this. And it'll be like government agencies that are likely rebuilding this and involved in the rebuild. But we'll keep eyes on that. Alibaba, ticker BABA, scraps, don't even know how to pronounce this. Cainiao, Cainiao, IPO plans stock buyback for unit. Boeing's debt ratings under review for downgrade at Moody's. Visa, MasterCard settle with merchants over swipe fees. Shockwave Medical, ticker SWAV, surges with J&J in M&A talks. So Johnson & Johnson might be looking to acquire Shockwave Medical, whose ticker is SWAV. You guys know if you've been with me for a while, companies that get acquired, their stock goes up. Companies that do the acquiring, if you win a bidding war to buy a company, you likely paid too much, so their stock goes down. And if you've also been paying attention over the course of the past 4 years with this administration, not a lot of these merger and acquisition deals are going through. They're getting struck down. So that's what I end up expecting to happen for really all of these deals with companies trying to buy other companies here until this administration is done. Operating costs, GoPro set to reduce global workforce, more layoffs. Learn AI, use it to increase your value in the marketplace. Learn how to put your money to work for you. This is every day with the layoffs. And this was a trend that, we started talking about here on these sessions 2 years ago. And we've seen it do nothing but gain steam. And it's something that's really attractive to investors as well of these companies. So it's double reward for the companies. They save money. They have less people on payroll, and it also looks better for their stock and causes more investment. NBC ousts ex-RNC head Ronna McDaniel after backlash. McDonald's, ticker MCD, and Krispy Kreme, ticker D-Nut, to expand U.S. partnership. Apparently, there's going to be Krispy Kremes at every McDonald's by the end of next year. I mean, do with that what you will. Merck, ticker MRK, wins FDA approval of sotatercept. I don't know what that is, for rare lung disease. And then Robinhood unveils first ever credit card with 3% cash back. Whipping out the Robinhood credit card. YOLO, baby. But listen up, guys. That'll wrap us up here today. I love that Libby said yuck. Yeah, it's a crazy world out here. But that had to be the most United States type headline that I've ever seen. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap us up today. March 27th, 2024. Like I said, March has been a great month. A number of tickers have treated us very well. We're looking to open up to significant profit here this morning with Marvel up pre-market after identifying that as a great setup yesterday. So we're doing this thing where we're able to consistently put our money to work for us, both on the short term and on the long term, while we grind to get better each and every day by 1%, right? That is the goal, and that is what we're getting done. So you're born looking like your parents, but you die looking like your decisions. So let's make sure that we within this community resolve each and every day to make decisions it closed the gap between where we are and where we want to be. Everybody have a great rest of the day. I'll be away from the desk from like 2 p.m. through the rest of close because I need to go get a haircut. So, yeah, that's just a little minor announcement. But everybody have a great rest of the day. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market prep session. Have a good one.